I don't know if it's recording yet. Here we go. Hey, folks. Welcome to Food for Action. Again, let me make sure that my ponytails are good. All right, cool. So, welcome. Let me first um, make sure that I always say that this is uh, I I purpose this as a vessel to um, to help people have another outlet or inlet for conversation about racism in America that does exist. It's not fake. It's not fake news. It's not, you know, some people's opinions that this thing exists. It actually is really there. It was really here. I am going to go over today a bunch of stuff. So I don't know how long this is going to go, and I don't know how long you'll be able to hang out, but it will be available on on um, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. So if you don't get to see this now, please take some time to go back and look later. Um, Also, I wanted to let you know that I've invited and have been inviting through Messenger and Facebook posts and things some different people to join me in the conversation. Again, my phone number is on my page, so you can actually call me, text me, or you can, if you feel more comfortable reaching out through Messenger, then you can join that way, or let me know if you want to join, or if there's anything you want to talk about. Remember that this is not just to talk about my opinions. This is to talk about things that I research. Also, I have opinions because I've lived this life, and but also I want everybody who tunes in or looks later to be able to express their views as well. What I don't want to happen, which is something that it looks like has happened a lot, is that a lot of people are just reaching out and sending me a message, and then but yet they don't want to join everybody in the conversation. So if I don't know if you've looked, but you'll see that usually throughout the course of one of these live streams, there'll be like 100 and something people that have either checked in, stayed around, checked in and out, so on. And then throughout the week, it'll go more towards the 400 and something views, which I think is awesome as well. But it's not just to look at. I don't want people to just sit around and say, hey, Obi has this thing online and he talks about this and that, and you either like it or you don't like it. That's not what this is for. I'm trying to preempt, I'm trying to instigate a conversation so that people will literally uh, look at themselves and look at their friends, look at look at family, and not just in a judgmental way, but wanting to question why this thing called racism exists. Um, some people say it's not real. Well, we're going to talk about a lot of things to show and prove that it is real. A lot of people say that it's just the left and liberal, um, far left extremists, so on, that are blowing this up into something. No, that's not true. And I'm going to show you factual things today that show you that this has been around for a long time. We're also going to talk about something that I didn't realize before myself, but I finally realize now. I have so many friends on Facebook that they bring Christianity into the conversation of of racism and protests of racism and so on. And so I have to say this, that I'm a Christian, and anybody who knows me, and if you look over my Facebook page, you'll find that I actually have been on staff at several different churches during my 51 years, almost 52 years of living. So I am a testament to let you know that this is not about people that hate Christians or Jesus or anything like that. It's crazy that people do that, that started that one. I actually saw a post today where this guy, and I'm not going to name him because I haven't been able to converse with him yet, but this guy posted a thing, and I'm assuming that it was either a Christian business or or it was an actual church. You couldn't tell that part. It was just the sign that was posted that said, uh, "Oh, hold on. I think I have it saved on my phone." This I have to tell you right away before I keep going because it was uh, it was very interesting. Here it is. This guy puts this thing. First, he hashtags all lives matter, and then he says 2,000 years ago. Oh, this is the This is the picture, the sign that says 2,000 years ago, Jesus ended the debate of which lives matter. He died for all, which is an amazing truth. The problem with that is that if our so-called founding fathers, if the slave owners, and if the people that still precipitate this whole systematic racism, and basically, and just your average run-of-the-mill, if there is such a thing, of hatred because of race, color. Uh, well, if they would have listened to Jesus saying that, then maybe there wouldn't be such a situation. Wouldn't have been slavery. Wouldn't have been murders and separations of families and torture and um, um, all of the pains that black and brown people have gone through and still go through today. Those things wouldn't exist if somebody else didn't or it didn't ignore what Jesus died for. Because boy, that's just I love the sign. It's just unfortunate that that perpetrators of racism they never paid attention to what Jesus said. So it's very interesting. Hey, Larry, what's happening, brother? You have yourself an okay, yeah. Hey, we'll talk. Give me a shout at some point if you can, man. Shoot me a message or my phone number is on there, and we can definitely talk. But I appreciate you stopping by. You're my dog. All right. So let's move on. And I guess I'll stay kind of in that vein for a second when we talk about we just talked about this the Jesus thing, which is the ultimate. You know what I'm Jesus says, love your brothers. I tell people this all the time. Love your neighbors, and it's impossible. It's impossible to claim to love all men and all people and your neighbors. You're saying that you can't love all of those people because of a skin tone or quote unquote or a race, but yet you can love God. God says that's not possible. God says that if you don't love your neighbors, then how can you love the Father? So people need to stop bending Bible scriptures to fit their convenient belief system. You know, you're either all in or you're all out. There's no straddling the fence. I've said that in several of these things so far. There's no such thing. What's up, Paul? All right. And by the way, Paulie's here today, so I'm gonna probably after a little bit of this try to get him in this conversation. So stick around, cuz. Um, um, so the straddling the fence thing doesn't work. But then I want to take that to another arm because a lot of people bring up history. They say, well, and I've gotten this from so many people's posts and so many people interacting with me personally through this Facebook Messenger and so on, and they say that, well, I'm not responsible for what my forefathers did or what my ancestors did. I'm not responsible for that. So why are we living in the past? So I want to take a little minute. I wrote down a couple notes because this was so important. Because when I saw that so many people were saying this same thing, hey, it's in the past. Why do you keep bringing it up? Or why is it why are we concentrating on the past? Why can't we just find a solution and look to the future? It's probably another wonderful thing to believe in. Unfortunately, it's not truth. It's not realism. We know this is that most of our country and the laws therein weren't made yesterday. It wasn't my dad or your cousin or your neighbor that made those laws. Yes, through time, certain things get, get some little tweaks done to it to try to bring them current. But the foundation of our laws, government, was from our forefathers, was from those ancestors, and we still live by those things. We're still told that we must live by those things. We are told that the lands of the law, excuse me, the law of the lands, that's what we're supposed to fall under. We're supposed to be, we're supposed to fall under those things in order to be a respectable citizen of this land, and I would assume the world, period. And so, on one hand, we're saying, hey, let's forget about the racism part of it for slavery, and we can't blame white people now, for it, and we should don't make the conversations be about that. But yet, we are made to structure our lives around the Constitution and other writings, but laws in general that were not written today. So you can't tell us, you can't say to especially to a black and brown person or anybody who's been oppressed, you can't say, well, don't worry about what happened yesterday. Go live in today and live for tomorrow. But yet, everything else you're telling me, yeah, I see you, bro. Uh, uh, um, you can't sit there and tell me that I have to abide by the rules of yesterday, but forget about the oppression and murder and violence and separation of families and all. I can't think about that stuff. I should just look to the future. But everything else that I do in my life, I have to structure it underneath the things that were formed, made, written into law, our history. We have to concentrate on that. It makes no sense. Let me give you a specific thing that is very divisive racially, sometimes party line. Yeah, party line as well. But we talk about the Second Amendment. Second Amendment is this right to bear arms and protect your people and your so on and so forth. What's up, Cad? I'm about to get you right in a minute. And if you'd like to join in audibly, I can do that too in a minute. But what we and I'm going to tell you about oppressed because if you the oppression subject is very long with multiple arms to it. So let me finish doing the example of Second Amendment first, and then I will get to you. So so for the most part, there is a right-leaning and um, mm, it's predominantly white um, side of this argument of Second Amendment and don't mess with my Second Amendment rights. Those rights were created when? That's a question mark for you guys to answer on your own. They weren't made by my dad or your dad or neighbor or what. No, these were laws that were created to protect some rights way back then when black people weren't even treated as not even equal but as a person. Black people were still something that used to be from slaves, and we weren't even an equal participant in anything in the land when this right. So we can say it's okay to address that, but we can't address the oppression and that stemmed from slavery. We can't address that, but we can address the one that makes you comfortable or that makes you uncomfortable if you feel like somebody's about to take your gun rights away. So that's, you can't just have it. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, let's pick and choose the the laws and the laws of the land that we want to have that make us feel comfortable in our surroundings and our environment, but yet the other things that we did to people that caused the things to be the way they are today, we can't acknowledge those. So, Cad, real quick, I'll slip in a quick one for you. So when we say that people are oppressed today, you have to again take into consideration what I just finished saying. That means that when the systems of law, when the systems of government, politics, first politicians, the people that were writing the rules, creating the systems that we live under, whether it be political, educational, uh, 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 the police force. I'm sorry, my words are twisting for a minute, but when you're talking about all the things that made this foundation in this land be what they are, those things have done something interesting. They have never subsided. There is still a majority of white folks that are in the positions of power in government, in education, policing, so on. I mean, you name it. If you name it, industrial. Um, that's how things are, and that's because that's how it started. That's how it began. And so little by little, we've been able to get some people in there, you know, one black senator who's a partner of mine. We grew up together and went to high school together. But that's just an example. But the reality is, if you look at every single um, corporation, if you look at every single, even sports teams, I think I talked about this the other day. Sports teams, owners, how many minority owners are there? I mean, you guys, you have to think about this. This is in every avenue of life, business, politics, education. We're not at the head of the table, and sometimes we don't have any members sitting at the table at all. That's not saying that it's your fault. It's saying that you have to acknowledge it. If there is no cure to racism, there is no cure to the mental, physical, what's the word? My I'm sorry about the words here. Your insides, your feelings. There's no way to 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 erase those things from a people without correcting what the problems are. Until there's equal footing and equal steps and equal seats at the table in every single place, even getting, people complained about when people started to do the thing for to where you have to have a certain amount of black folk to be accepted in college. Or I mean, it's mind-boggling how some people say that's not fair when it's not an equal inlet. There is not an equal inlet for for black and brown folks or minority folks in this country still today. Look numbers up. Numbers are cool as hell if you really pay attention to them. It seems to me that a lot of people are basically speaking on their own behalves of what their personal thing is in life. And because you're not personally doing it, or you're personally not affected by it, then you think it doesn't exist. And then you have somebody of power that sits around making it all look like it's just invisible, and people fall for it. And so, again, I don't want to sit around and just be I don't want to do that political thing. We can one day, and we can on private conversations, but I don't want to make it just that. But it is interesting and important to point out the fact that we do have someone who heads our country who literally is coloring things in such a bizarre way to make people literally not even check their own conscience in their own history books, or probably not your history books, but history books in general, to make sure that you do see what things are. You can't get to point Z without going to A, B, C, D, whatever, unless you're cheating. And if you're cheating, you're probably coming up with some, what your results probably are wrong in so many fashions. So when it comes to talking about oppression, you have to remember that there are certain facets to it. There are certain levels to it, and they all exist. And it starts from the ground. It starts from the poor schools, the poor housing, the money that's being spent in other ways in government that could be used to help give people in poorer neighborhoods kind of feel like there's some support that you can get out of those places and those positions. But you can't do it if it's not available to you. So that means that there's an instant automatic oppression that was started from years and years and years and years and years and years. That means great 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 grandfathers ago. So Don't get offended. Be part of the solution. Let me scroll a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little backed up here. Let's see. Obi, hi Kimberly. How are you doing? Polly Paul. Oh, yeah, that's a good one, Polly. Uh, so this is a good one. He brought up Polly. I'm gonna get you in this conversation if you can give me a few minutes. I want you to speak about that. That would be kind of cool. Um, Cad respectfully disagrees because whites are not at the top of the spectrum in the USA. Cad, I don't know what TV you're watching, brother, but white people are at the top of everything in the USA. You can look up every corporation, 500 corporation, 400 corporation. You might find one, and hold on, I got stats on that. I mean, we can, Cad, we might have to have a conversation for real first, or maybe let's get you on this live stream Wednesday. I'm here again, and I'll keep a hold of these things. I'll do some screenshotting and so on, so that we can talk about them. But I see that you're also saying something that's kind of cool. You're saying you're saying that you don't want to take up time to argue. This is not about an argument. It's about a conversation. That means that there becomes validity and respect with everybody's the things that everybody have to say. But we also have to be open-minded and open-hearted to understand that there are things that are going on that you might not realize, and maybe you should take a harder look. Don't just listen to the next man, but literally take a look. Go talk to some people that are not your same color and find out the stories, the things that they're going through that you might find out are a lot tougher for them. I see your phone number here. Thank you, Kat. I'm going to get in touch with you without a doubt. No doubt about it. Appreciate that. Um, uh, okay, Section 8 housing. Okay. Hi, Kathy. So, Kathy brought up Section 8 housing. I hope you didn't mind me telling them it was you. But Section 8 housing is to help um, definitely in certain situations it helps poorer people, not just minorities, but poorer people. And so, uh, thank you, Cad. And so that's not that's not a thing that's strictly addressing the black and brown people oppression thing that we're talking about. Nor does every black and brown person qualify for Section 8 housing. As a matter of fact, Section 8 housing is a pretty difficult thing to qualify for. So you should check that out because it's not as simple as some people make it seem. All right. Being blackballed is not the same as oppression. Yeah, you are correct. Being blackballed. That's why I don't use the term blackballed because it's I don't like to throw in those kind. There's a lot of what do they call those acronyms or whatever that are like that. They're little sayings that people came up with along the way. I like to use real sayings, and I'll search for them so that I can find them because that's not a good one. Uh, so let's see. I'm gonna in a few minutes here. I'm gonna invite my cousin to join in the conversation if I can do it right this time. It stinks. You phone number? Yeah. Okay. All right. Larry wants to let everybody know that you can PM your phone numbers. It's not a good idea for all predators. Well, guess what, Larry? I already messed that up because I gave everybody access to my phone number. So, and actually nobody has done anything ugly yet. So I feel good about that. But that's up to everybody else. But that's a good thought because I don't want anybody to get in trouble like that with their phone numbers out there. So let's see. Uh, what I'm hoping for this part of things is that you know you you will see that um, you'll see that there's homework for everybody to do. Let me tell you that those of you who I haven't spoken to individually yet don't understand that I actually turn this into a job type thing. First of all, I have chronic Lyme disease, and so it puts me in a lot of pain. So I don't get to work as much as I used to be able to work. I might get a show here or there, and when I get a show, not since the pandemic, but before that, when I get a show, I work with some loving musicians, and they would let me come in. And if I started, hurting too much, they'll let me sit down on the side for a minute, and kind of breathe and get my, you know, get my strength back, and then come back and so on. And Kathy, you know about that because that one of those people is related to you. Um, so, but but what I've done since I haven't been able to work so much, and since I've had got this calling or feeling to start this particular conversation, I actually do homework. I go on Fox. I go on CNN. I go on. Here we go. I got you, brother. No doubt. Cad is being really cool. I like it. Willing to talk, wants to talk. I got your number, brother. I will shout you out this week without a doubt. And then hopefully we'll come to some terms where maybe we can hold part of our conversation online on one of the next shows. I think it's valuable for everybody to hear why everybody feels or thinks or opines the way that they do. It's very important. That's part of the conversation. That's part of growth. It's part of it's what every man and woman and child should want to do and be willing to do. I am willing to subject myself. This is me talking about me now. I'm willing to subject myself to whatever it takes in order to keep the conversation going. And what I've seen is that after we're done with these shows, I see a lot of you guys keep going. I watched my daughter talking to a bunch of you guys last time. So after we were done, so that's the whole point, is to make a conversation, and maybe at some point it clicks for somebody. Maybe it doesn't. I'm not. I don't. That part. That's not my department. My department is just let's talk, and I wanted to provide another avenue for it. But where was I? I just forgot where I was. Sorry, people. Let me see if I can get Paulie in here real quick, since I just lost all my thoughts. Paulie, I'm about to click on you and see how I can get you here. It might just be audio, like the last time, so I apologize if I can't get him here uh, visually. Let's see. Give me a second. My bad. Paul. Yeah, I think it's going to end up just being a call. So I apologize, you guys. Let me know if you can hear him. Polly, I'm calling you now on Messenger. So hopefully this will at least work as good as what me and my Smunchkin did last week. My Smunchkin's my daughter. Polly, are you there?
Yo, yeah.
Okay. Polly?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hey, everybody, this is my cuz. This is Polly. I'm not going to tell your last name. Everybody will find out later, I guess, maybe. So, what's good today, man? First,
That's all good.
it's all good. Yep, go ahead.
Spent time with family today.
Oh, truth. It's all about that. Family, people. Polly is my cousin. He is in South Carolina. I'm not going to say where, but he's in South Carolina, and we grew up, experiencing so many different things that a lot of people, and I have to say it this way, but especially white folks, didn't believe that we were going through in high school, and then even now. And so I wanted to invite him on. He's light skinned like me. Well, he's probably a little bit darker than I am. So last week I had my daughter who looks. So last week I had my daughter on. My daughter looks completely white.
On a podcast.
Yes, you are. My daughter was completely white, and it looks completely white. I'm sorry. And then today we have my cousin Polly, who looks a little bit darker than me, but not as dark as my dad. All right, Polly, tell me. Can everybody hear Polly? By the way, let me wait till I get some response first. Or can anybody tell me if they hear Polly? Polly, say hi.
Hey, I'm probably a little darker because I played some golf
today. That I needed you to say that.
It was hot.
We didn't even script that. Polly, I needed you to say that exact thing. Can everybody hear Paul? I'm just going to trust that you can. Because I can't get him here visually. So again, my apologies. Maybe I'll do this whole thing by my phone Wednesday, because I know I can get people on there. So anyways, Polly, so tell me, because you have a very interesting family makeup. Um, Mom, pops. Uh, tell me a little bit. Tell the folks a little bit about your first acknowledgement that there was something racially happening, good or bad, whatever you sensed when you first sensed it, and you said, "Oh snap! There's black people and white people and whatever."
Probably when I moved to South Carolina. Um, so my dad was in the Air Force. He was born and raised in New York City, but my grandmother's originally from Charleston. And so my dad, being in the Air Force, he was stationed in Plattsburgh, New York State, and that's where he met my mom. My mother's from Montreal.
True.
So I got a very diverse family. Um, and
Can you tell
so I
everybody?
grew up
Can,
all.
can I interrupt you real quick? Can you tell everybody,
Yeah.
because I think this part, especially since they can't see you, is important. Can you tell everybody the complexions of your pops and your moms?
My dad is dark skinned. He's brown, and then my mom's very fair. She's people used to think she was white,
All right, keep going. Sorry for interrupting.
but her father is French Indian, and her mother is was Native Indian.
That's cool, huh? So, all right. So, tell me when you went. What was your first feeling or acknowledgement or question mark of, "Hey, what's up with this difference of color thing?" Or did you have to anything? Was it a positive experience, a negative experience? Just tell me whatever your first thing that made you have to acknowledge you're different than somebody else.
Probably when I moved down to South Carolina and made friends with people on the base and realized that I went into certain houses.
How about that? That's crazy, eh?
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
had. So there was still, even though y'all was military, there was still a separation housing wise.
Yeah, diversity on the air base was, is pretty diverse, but down here, I guess it was a little bit different.
So okay, so I wanted to talk about that for a second because I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
We got plenty of people that are in military families, but I never knew that that was the way it was. Or maybe I was just
Hmm.
closing my eyes. So,
Yeah.
so your pops was pretty high up in the Air Force, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but you still were segregated on base on
No,
military
we
houses.
weren't segregated. We weren't segregated, but we had everybody played together, but like
Right,
you
there was a
know,
but living
I
wise, there was a section that was more towards black folk, and a section that
no,
was no.
no, it wasn't like that.
Okay, give it to me because I missed it.
No, so what? So no, I saying is like when we went out to play, like if I had to use the restroom and it and we were playing over by the house, like they wouldn't, like if it was a white kid, we would couldn't go in
Oh wow, that's
there.
crazy.
Yeah,
That's
and
still
I didn't
crazy.
know why, but my black friends were like,
Did you talk to your folks about that?
yeah, yeah.
What did they say? I know mom had something
Well,
powerful.
they was like, well, you don't need to be playing with that kid.
Right. Wow. All right. So tell me. Okay.
But but
Oh, go ahead.
but they were. I mean, my parents were. They didn't care. I had friends of all races coming up,
Right.
being on the air base.
Right.
So I mean, that was just the first eye-opening experience that I had.
Right.
Uh, and then somebody had to tell me about it.
Let me know. Let me
Somebody had
let
to
you
tell
guys
me
know real
why.
quick. I'm sorry, Paulie. Let me let you guys know real quick that you are watching uh, Food for Action, presented by SBTSBC, and you're listening to my cousin Paul, and he's explaining um, his first, you know, racial revelations. I'll call it that. That might be a shirt, but uh, and he's gonna tell a little bit more about his experiences growing up and then to now. But I want you to tell people about dating. Tell me that.
Uh, well, yeah. So there really wasn't any problems dating
Hmm.
until you dated a white girl,
Uh-huh.
and that's when we got older though. That's when
Right.
we were like, driving, and
Yeah.
you started going out of your neighborhood and
Yep.
going to parties and meeting people.
Yeah.
Uh, and you'd meet a girl, and you'd have to you know meet a certain time,
Uh-huh.
park down the street.
Yeah.
It wasn't no meeting the parents.
That's right. I remember several of jumping fences scenarios to see a gal.
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
It was
oh
very.
yeah,
I mean, a lot of people really don't acknowledge that that was going on. And we would try to tell people. I remember when the whole new breed and all that stuff happened. Then all of a sudden,
yeah,
people acknowledged it, but in a worse way. We had to fight and everything else. We were trying to keep it just
yeah,
kind of low key.
yeah. I do remember I was dating a certain young lady, and her parents were having a party, and she wanted to introduce me. And uh, yeah, it didn't go well.
So she didn't even realize that that's how you would be received.
Well, I think her idea was, this is who she's dating. You know, I'm sure she knew her parents loved her, and they didn't. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
think
Right.
they were like that, but you could tell that when she brought me in and introduced me, the record stopped playing, and uh, it
Oh,
was
hey,
awkward.
hey,
It was real
Polly,
awkward.
real quick. Cad, who was talking earlier, he said, "What's up to you?" Just so you know, he's
Yo,
in
respect,
he's in South Carolina
respect.
too. And then, okay, yeah, Larry, we got that. He had to straighten me on the Air Force thing because I didn't understand what he was saying at first. So cool.
Okay.
You never. Okay. All right, Paul. So tell me then now. So you're a grown ass, excuse my expression, man. All right, and you got a good job,
Yeah.
and you know, you lived wherever you wanted to live when done your thing. Um,
Mm.
how has racism, the things that are going on around you, because you're a really cool dude. I mean, you're real. You have a diplomatic way, and but you also have a very loving way, which is a little bit different than some of us. Some of
Mm.
us are a little bit more hard because of whatever we've been through, I guess. And so,
Right.
but you seem to be able, like, if you wanted to be a politician, I'm sure you'd be like winning all kind of seats here and there. But
Mm.
to you, how are you experience the racial divide now?
Uh, well, you know what? I live in a vacuum, sort of, because I don't really much and venture out too much. I get out sometimes. Like, I got a friend that's got a boat, and I'll go out on a boat,
True.
and people will be surprised to see me out there sometimes.
On the boat, must be a nice boat.
Yeah. But my philosophy, I grew up on the air base, so it was very diverse. And even moving off base here in South Carolina, it was pretty diverse. There were tensions growing up,
Right.
you could tell. But when when there was a party, we usually had a diverse group of people at the party.
Right.
So I've always had friends, of every spectrum of the rainbow. So it hasn't really been a
Oh,
big issue for
Paul,
me,
I
more
got to
as
interrupt you.
much as most.
Paul, I got to interrupt
Yeah.
you. Can you turn your volume up where you're at? Because I already tried, and somebody just said that you could use some volume.
How's that?
Oh,
Is
that
that
yeah,
better?
that's better. I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll get a
Okay.
response. All right, sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I have a very diverse group of friends, and so I work a lot, and I don't get out much,
Right.
but when I do get out, everybody's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And at work, I wouldn't say it's diverse, but I think people are respectful of diversity and
Right.
me and stuff like that. Now there was a situation at work not too long ago where people were talking about they were talking about the rioters, but they called them protesters.
Right. Right.
And I had to correct them.
Right.
Because I had to say, you mean rioters and looters. You don't mean protesters.
Right. Right. They put so in other words, it's an angle of making protesters seem negative. Uh,
Yeah.
right. Convoluting the
Yeah.
whole scenario. Correct.
Right. Yeah. So that was kind of an awkward moment at work, but that was just people having a conversation. I knew they realized I was there, but they didn't realize. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't really say a whole lot. I don't really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just me.
So what do you feel?
Go
ahead.
But when I felt like I had to correct them in that moment.
Right. And but that means that it made you feel a way, which is important because a lot of people don't realize that we do feel a way, just as anybody has maybe a specific sensitive subject. That's one of our many.
Yeah.
And so when people try to convolute issues, when we're talking about the police killings versus somebody that's just that uh, the comparison to a police murder, kind of making it sound like they asked for it, and so on. When you look down deep into the situation, and you'll find that the same crime that they're being accused of, if it happens to a white person, I'm not saying all the time, but the majority of the time, you can look it up and see that it's a worse reaction when it's a black person. That's black man, woman, or child, and
that's that mentality. And what I'm getting at is when you confuse looters and rioters with protesters. I mean, it's the same thing as confusing black people with thugs and gangsters.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that.
Or equating immigrants that are escaping violence and poverty to rapists and murderers that are coming across our borders to do wrong.
Right.
And that's, you know what I mean? And it's just to equate that either it's ignorant to the point where you can't distinguish the two.
Yeah.
Or even worse, you just don't care.
Right.
You're
indifferent. Right.
Indifferent.
Yeah, and that's the part I think I appreciate everything you're saying, Paulie, and I that's the thing that I think is the one part of this message that we can't seem to get everybody to grab a hold of, is that you can't everything doesn't go under one name, you know. Everything that just because it looks the same, it doesn't necessarily. There's an internal part. There's a substance part that makes it different. There are no two people. God did a wonderful thing. He made no two people the same. What's up, Sean? He made no two people the same, and because of that, that's supposed to be, without speaking a word, that's supposed to be the reason that we're supposed to look at each other and not be judgmental and not put everybody in the same corner and not, cast everybody as this or that.
It's just lazy to simplify it as such.
Right. Yeah, so it's sad. Paulie, I want to thank you for hanging out, bro. And we're definitely going to have you back when I get the visual happening. So everybody, nice round of applause to Polly. Clap, 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 clap. I love you, cuz. We'll talk in a
Love you,
minute.
man.
All right. Tell mama.
All right.
Tell mama love.
Absolutely.
All right. Peace, brother.
Peace.
So that was my cousin, Polly, and he's really a like. If you take family aside, he's one of the coolest people, man. And when you hear that his heart is touched by the things that are going on, it's insane. And I like the subject he brought up about how people are, you know, put into the same bubble by folks, uh, you know, just because you see one Hispanic person commit a crime doesn't mean all Hispanic people commit crimes. Just because you see, you know what I mean? So it's just not, it's not, proactive, productive thinking. It's not, somebody's taking part of your mind away if you just start doing that. And that's a lot of what happens here in this racism thing. That is why when I one of the first, I think it was the second time I did this, I made it a point to give the definitions of racism and prejudice. And I'll do that again. I think Wednesday night I'll have that conversation again, and with along with another guest to come on and talk, because I think every time I see something on the news, yeah, I see the thing about Zoom. I just am trying. If you have some skills on this, Larry, let me know, because I've been trying to do where I can stream to Facebook, uh, Instagram, and YouTube at the same time, and haven't been able to work it out. I'm a musician, man. Everybody knows that. I can work all musical equipment that exists in life, but I cannot do this camera stuff. It's crazy. I'm still learning it. But anyways, like I was saying, but I'll do this talk that is about the difference between racism and prejudice, because I think that's such an important understanding for people to have, for self and outwardly, because you have to know that you have to be able um, to put the right tag, the right definition to the thing that you're facing. And if you put the wrong one, you're creating a worse problem. And that's what I think people do a lot of times. Is it's like Paul said, it's simpler to um, to just have one term, and you could just make, and just apply that to all the people that you feel are that way. And when you do that, then what happens is you end up killing your message, and you end up hurting so many more people, because you're putting everybody in one bucket, and you just can't do that because you don't know. You have to do the homework. You have to understand what things are. Larry, I appreciate it, bro. And but you have to be able to take the time to understand and acknowledge. That's where we get right back to where I entered this live stream today, and that is where people have to be open enough to research and let in other things besides what they've already been, either they trained themselves to believe, or their perception is this, that, and the other. You have to be willing. From what I was told, we learn until we die. And so if we learn until we die, why does it seem that some people just stop learning? Why does it seem that some people aren't open enough to say, you know what, I might have been thinking wrong for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. Maybe there's another side that might make a little bit more sense. Maybe there's a little, if you're a loving person, maybe there's a side that makes it more loving, and I know this. A lot of people take Christianity and they just flip it and toss it and do whatever they want to. Sorry for that flailing of my hands, but people do that. They literally take Christianity and then they just kind of, let's just you know make it to fit me and my beliefs and my friends. And that's not what Christianity is. Christianity is about loving every single person on this planet. And if God gives us the ability to be on other planets, we got to love them too. And loving them means respecting them, means listening to them, means to accept them, means to not always put yourself in the I'm right seat. That's why I do all the homework I do when I do this stuff. Every time somebody sends me a message, and let me tell you, I get hundreds of these messenger things now that I have to go through. And every time somebody says something that I don't know anything about, I'm instantly researching it from every angle that I can. I'm listening to people that I used to not like listening to on the radio and on TV. And but now I know that I've learned that it's important to open yourself up, make yourself available to understand other people, to understand other people's plights, to understand that their story might not be the way that it was taught to you. The story on this earth might not be the same exact thing that went from generation to generation in your family. It might just be the person that you don't like. That person's family might have been the right way that it went, the exact way, the real way. And if we don't open ourselves up to learning, thank you, Polly, goodness, right there. If we don't open ourselves up to accept and to stretch and break things down and make ourselves pliable and available to understanding and learning new things, then we are just as bad or worse than anything that we can call anybody else. Because that's not what God wanted us to do. Jesus didn't walk this earth for us to sit there and say, okay, well, it's just my way. That whole my way and the highway. That's not what he did. You know, all these people, I hear this stuff, and off subject for a minute, but, oh, it's my right not to wear a mask. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, is it your right to hurt other people? Is it your right to disrespect the folks around you who are concerned with what's happening with the coronavirus? I mean, we hear so many stories on every network of people getting the coronavirus. They didn't know they had it. They gave it to somebody else at a party, at a store, at whatever. Was that fair? Was that fair of the person who didn't wear the mask and didn't social distance? Is that fair? People have to get outside themselves. Stop being so selfish. Be selfless. And with that word, I'm going to bid y'all a farewell. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you didn't get to see it all, it's going to be available on all the platforms. I love you guys. And until what day is next? Wednesday? Same black time, same black channel.